All right, y'all. Today we're taking a look at this boudoir photography business. Gonna see if it has BSS for its local search and for its city search. All right, so we're in the GBC universe, taking declining boudoir photographers to the number one boudoir photographer in their city. And our North Star, as always, is FSIC, full spectrum intent capture. And FSIC explains why all boudoir photographers either rise or fall. So we're rising, that means we're attracting, we're bringing in people across the entire intent ladder, high intent to low intent. If we're falling, we're missing peeps somewhere along the intent ladder. We're not successfully bringing them in, or even making them aware we exist. So, BSS, focusing here on this, this profile, this brand, focusing on the highest intent buyers, searching right now for boudoir photo shoots right in their city, social search, and Google search. Then our other brand, Boudoir FB Ad Doctor, focusing on BLCS. Right now, we're only working with boudoir photographers spending more than 10 grand a month in boudoir Facebook ads. And that's actually going to be the lowest intent people, in any location, but it's going to have the highest number of them. All right, so BSS is boudoir search sameness. That is when a boudoir photographer has either 0 or 1 slots on page 1 of Google. And as a result, if we got 0 slots, we're basically dead, kind of dead in the water for on page 2 or deeper. And that's because we already know that approximately 80% of Google searches are page 1 only Google searches. So they never even go to page 2. So we care about this 80% cohort. This is the bulk of the market. So if we're in 0 slots on page 1, we're invisible to them because they ain't clicking any page deeper at all. Now, if we got 1 slot on page 1, it's also as boudoir search sameness because we're looking the same as every other boudoir photographer. Everyone else on page 1's got most likely 1 link. So anyone going down the Google search, they're clicking us, they're clicking first link, second link, third link, all 10 links, opening up everyone, contacting everyone, getting a quote from everyone, price shopping everyone. And so boudoir search sameness, not good for us. Now, 0 or 1 slots on page 1 of Google is actually not normal, extremely common, but to have that few number of slots page 1 of Google is not normal. It's actually the symptom of 2 deeper root causes. Those 2 deeper root causes are 1, which many people know about, which is market saturation, and 2, which basically nobody knows about, is the false belief of page 1 equality. So market saturation, it's when someone gets a new iPhone, all of a sudden they're throwing up, Google My Business profile, Google My Business profile, basically increasing and throwing up their website, competing more for page 1 dominance, or they get a new camera, then they start posting them on Facebook groups. So basically they're increasing the supply of boudoir photographers where the number of buyers in the market remains fixed, which means it's making it harder for every current boudoir photographer to get clients. A big tsunami when that happened was when we had COVID. So when we had COVID, massive, when people lost their jobs, they still need to earn an income. So a lot of them came out as boudoir photographers, saturating the market, making it harder for all the current sellers. Now, the second deeper root cause is the false belief of page 1 equality. This is what I've seen is the number 1 killer of boudoir photography businesses. It's basically kind of this false belief is assuming that every boudoir photographer gets either 0 or 1 slots on page 1 of Google. And, as a result, we, if you got 1 slot, okay, got 1 slot on page 1 and get some more market saturation. All right, we're pushed down onto, basically we're pushed on to, page 2, but that's fine because every boudoir photographer gets either 0 or 1 slots on page 1. So I guess it's not my time anymore. Hopefully they, they shut down their website. So maybe I got a chance to go back on page 1. But no, that is 100% incorrect. Google actually wants to give as many page one slots to the boudoir photographer that wants as many as they'll put in the effort to acquire. And I know that because I went from 0 out of 10 slots on page one on Google to 9 out of 10 slots on page one on Google in only 10 days. And so I know for a fact Google will give the slots to those who truly want them. Now, boudoir photographer with BSS, boudoir search sameness, is a disappearing boudoir photographer. Because yeah, dude, basically we're either got 0 slots on page one, so on page 2 or deeper. And again, approximately 80% of searchers. The bulk of the market ain't never going to see us because they're page one only. And then for 1 slot on page one, we don't stand out. We're not different. We're being price shopped against everyone who also has, 1 slot on page one. So what's the solution? We got the solution. BSS is treated with social search saturation S-cubed methodology. We know this is a solution because we invented it. Again, this is what I used to go from 0 out of 10 slots on page one to 9 out of 10 slots on page one in 10 days. Google page one search. And this is actually the only solution I've seen that can successfully fight back against market saturation. Basically, we saturate social search with the highest intent keywords, so we show up there. And once we saturate there, the outcome is actually that flows into those results actually flow onto Google page one, or Google. And if we get enough signals, obviously that puts us a higher chance Google puts us at Google page one. So the S-cubed methodology, to use it, we have to accept page one equality as a false belief, which kind of breaks that brain barrier to, okay, what's the solution we can use? S-cubed methodology. And it's the only thing that I've seen that actually can successfully fight back against market saturation for boudoir photographers, because imagine we're in San Jose, California. It's a million boudoir photographers. Everyone's got a website. We're one of the boudoir photographers. Everyone's trying to be ranked page one Google, but we employ S-cubed methodology to the max, where we're taking up the first 300 slots for social search on all the platforms for our highest intent buyer keywords, which then flows onto Google. And let's say we're the first 300 slots on Google for our highest intent keywords as well. Well, that means literally the first 30 pages is filled up with only us on Google organic search. And so when we have that, buyers got to go to page 31 to essentially find any other competitors, and no one's going to page 31. So buyers can essentially only find us. So even if there's max a ton of boudoir photographers, market gets more and more saturated, we stay dominating page one, which is actually where the bulk of searches stop. 80% of them, approximately 80% of them. So whose business is growing? Our business is growing. Whose business is disappearing? Everyone else. Even though the market's super saturated. Now, once you're with S-cubed methodology, we have page one visibility. Page one visibility is getting at least 2 out of 10 slots on page one, where we're actually looking different. We do have a GBC recommended minimum of 3 out of 10 though, 3 slots out of 10 slots. And once we actually achieve that, we get an extra bonus, which is for every new slot we take up on page one, we're actually kicking competing boudoir photographers off page one, effectively making them invisible. So this is kind of an extra bonus of ranking on page one, is we're actually kicking a competitor off page one, and we already know approximately 80% of searchers never even go to page two. So we effectively make our competitors invisible. But we do want to hit the GBC minimum of at least 3 out of 10. Now, page one visibility activates boudoir search visibility for us. So we don't have 0 out of 1. We, 0 slots on page one. We don't have 1 slot on page one. We do not have 2 slots on page one. Well, 2 slots on page one means we don't have BSS, but that means we have not hit the GBC minimum of 3 out of 10 slots on page one. And we want to hit that because we actually Yeah, if we got 3 out of 10 on page one, we're kicking 2 competitors off, or maybe even 3. Also, we're going to look way more visible than simply having the people with 1 link, and very rarely will there be someone else with two links, but we'll look even better than them as well. And a boudoir photographer with BSV is a visible boudoir photographer. So we got to get visible. So this is our universe here. We got disappearing boudoir photographer with boudoir search sameness is caused by kind of the dual horns of market saturation and page one equality, the false belief of page one equality. And we achieve, or we utilize S-cube methodology. That's our solution. We achieve page one visibility, become a visible boudoir photographer with boudoir search visibility. So my results using this, using my own S-cubed methodology for myself, I wanted to rank for the keyword BLCS boudoir. So came in here, gonna look at the organic, and got organic slot 1, Instagram, slot 2, slot 3, slot 4, slot 5, slot 6, slot 7, slot 8, and slot 10. But we got 9 out of 10 slots on Google here, simply from utilizing our S-cubed methodology. And this went from 0 out of 10 to 9 out of 10 in 10 days. So now to the main event here. Let's see if this boudoir photography business has BSS for its local search and its city search. So Middletown, Delaware, Wilmington, Delaware. Okay. So here we go, Middletown, Delaware. So here we go, we got slot 1. Sponsor doesn't count. All right, we got slot 2. All right, we got slot 3. We got slot 4. Hey, we got slot 5. And we got slot 6. Slot 7. Slot 8. Amazing. All right, this is what we want. This is page one domination. When we got 8 out of 10 or more slots on page one. Google search for our highest intent keyword. Perfect. Exactly what we want. Obviously, we want as many as we can get, 9 or 10 as well, but hey man, 8's great. So we do not have BSS for local search, and we have achieved the GBC minimum of 3 out of 10 for local search. Perfect. And that search, the largest city close by, which is Wilmington, the same thing. All right, so here we go. We got slot 1. Boom, slot 2. All right, so we got slot 2 here. So we do not have BSS for city search either. So we got 2 out of 10 slots. Nice. And a benefit. So we do not have BSS for local search, and we hit the GBC recommended minimum of 3 out of 10 for local search. We also do not have BSS for city search, but we did not hit the GBC recommended minimum of 3 out of 10 for city search. So all in all, pretty good. So if you're a disappearing boudoir photographer and you've done a local search for yourself, high intent keyword, as a buyer, saying you got BSS there, or you've done it at the city search, you may have BSS there, or you've seen for either of those, you're not meeting the GBC recommended of 3 out of 10 slots on page 1. And you're seeing that S-cubed methodology is finally your one way to solve that. Then you're also taking into account the false belief of page 1 inequality. Yeah, it's false. That Google wants to give us as many page 1 slots as we want to take and want to put in the effort to acquire. So S-cubed methodology is the path forward. And you understand market saturation, the 2 prongs, people getting new iPhones, people getting new cameras. And you like the initial benefits of S-cubed methodology, get more slots on page 1, and also kicking competitors off page 1, so you're on page 2 where you're basically never going to be price shopped against them. And you're liking all that. And with regards to market saturation, you're seeing AI, it's going to be taking more and more people's jobs. And as that happens, you know more and more boudoir photographers are actually going to come flooding into the market. And as more and more boudoir photographers flood into the market, they're actually going to, increase the supply. And as we increase the supply of boudoir photographers, going to be, harder to compete page one, lowering the basically more supply, lower demand of page one. And as a result, you realize you got to kind of fortify page one against a new future big rush of boudoir photographers. So as you're doing that, well, you're seeing, okay, executed methodology is the only thing available to do that as well. And so you're liking all that. And you're also understanding that when we do executed methodology, we're actually kind of building kind of these invisible thematic keyword columns. And as we build these invisible thematic keyword columns, what's happening is they're kind of like, columns of the Parthenon in Athens, Greece, or kind of like, hub and spoke kind of spokes attached, to our business hub. And what actually happens is we're increasing the mind share of the back end, the kind of the AI mind share. And every day we successfully do, we're going to higher and higher probability that we're going to rank here in the AI overview on Google. And we're also increasing the probability that we get recommended AI search as well. So this AI overview is really a, basically a kind of a premium placement. But AI search, dude, AI search is awesome as well because more and more people are using AI search every single day. And so this kind of invisible momentum building up in the background, and you recognize, man, this will also help you build a brand approximately 8x faster. Kind of all these benefits combined, kind of we're just showing up way more on everyone over time. And you're recognizing that it's better to, you decided you want to be a first mover on this because if you actually hop into this with your, and you exclude all your competitors from using this, because my plan is to only work with this with one boudoir photographer in a city, then what actually happens is you're building up all this initial benefits and future benefits of making massive strides, massive progress against your competitors, kind of putting a big gap between you and them. As you put a big gap between you and them, it becomes harder and harder for them to ever catch up. And conversely, if someone else, some other competitor in your city came with you first, or came with me first, and we're able to build a massive gap on you, get all those, initial benefits, what actually happens is you'd have to rederive execute methodology on your own. You would not know if you've successfully rederived it 100% correctly or not. So then you'd actually have to go and, run execute methodology on your own and match our output to then kind of maintain the gap between your competitor and you. And you would have to, you'd actually have to then actually exceed our output to kind of catch us and close that gap. So you decide, screw that. You'd rather be you decide you're going to be the first mover and not have to deal with kind of someone overtaking your spots. So if that's you, shoot me a DM. Hospital is currently closed for new patients, but when we do open slots for new patients in the future, yeah, shoot a DM and we'll see if you qualify to utilize our S-cubed methodology.